Welcome to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, brought to you by Pilma. This podcast helps lead lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Here is your legal marketing expert and host, Ken Hardison.
Hello, everyone. This is Ken Hardison, and welcome to another episode of Grow Your Law Firm. And today we have the honor and privilege of having Michael Bryant, personal injury lawyer from Minnesota. And welcome, Michael.
Welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So I usually don't tell a lot about my guests. I'll do them tell it because they're going to tell it a lot better. And it's not bragging when I ask you. So I want you to just tell our viewers, our listeners out there, you know, how did you become a lawyer? What got you into personal injury? You know, what was your journey?
Yeah. Well, I was a hockey player, and hockey took me all over the place. I played junior hockey and was playing some college hockey. And then I went to a little school in southern Minnesota, thinking I'd be there for 1 year. And I got there and found out there was a lot more to life than stopping hockey pucks, and started getting involved in school and, learned and, figured out there was girls and all sorts of things going on in the world. I got really involved into politics. I worked on a couple presidential campaigns. And then I was working on Dick Gephardt's campaign for president. And my friends, when he dropped out, all went to Dukakis, and they ended up with Clinton later on. And I didn't like Mike Dukakis at all, going back from when I was a kid. And so I went to law school instead. And I thought maybe I'd just use it as a safety valve. And out of law school, I went to work for John Bradshaw. And then John Bradshaw became Bradshaw and Bryant. And then Bradshaw retired, and now it's Mike Bryant. And, I still am Bradshaw and Bryant, but we're different beasts than we were. At one point, we were 2 lawyers and 3 staff people, and now we're 23 total people.
So what year did you become Bradshaw and Bryant?
We actually became Bradshaw and Bryant in 95. I started with John in 91, and then I became a partner in 95. And then at that point, we were in a little town south of St. Cloud, Minnesota. And then we moved to St. Cloud 2 years later. And then I opened an office in the cities. And so now we have 2 offices.
Hey, great. And you said you got 23 people now. How many lawyers, how many staff?
Lawyers kind of depends, because John still does a little bit of work, and we have somebody that writes for us, but the lawyers are anywhere between 5 and 8, depending on how you count them.
Right. Okay. So, I always tell my story. I'm not going to tell it today. When I started it was 2 lawyers and 3 staff, and then we grew very fastly and rapidly. So 95, TV was going strong. And I was talking to you before. URL is very, very strong because it's Minnesota personal injury. I think it's personal injury lawyer or law. I can't remember.
Lawyer.com.
Yeah, very strong. And so you must have had some foresight to see that the internet was going to be the place.
Yeah, I was involved in some groups that indicated that was going to be a big part of it. And then I just kind of stumbled on MinnesotaPersonalInjury.com. And I bought it, and it got it really cheap, and we've had it since, and it's worked out well. And we've done a lot of things. I did a lot of blogging early. I blogged every day for basically, I think it was 4 years in a row, and that put a lot of material out there for us. And so it just got to the point where we had a lot of stuff there. John was one of the real early lawyers in billboards. So he was into billboards in the 80s. And so we've used different things, but now we're to the point where a lot of our cases come from word of mouth. And I use a lot of radio. Radio is a real important part of what we do.
I'm going to ask you, how did you tell our listeners, what do you think, like the top 3 marketing deals or strategies or media that you use to grow it from like 3 people to 23 people?
Real early, I got to know all of our referral sources, and I make it a practice to, like, when we get a check for a doctor or chiropractor or for another lawyer, I'll drop it off. I was talking to a lawyer one time, and he was saying, "Oh, what's going on with that case?" And we'd sent him a really big check, and he had no idea, because it had been mailed to him and it went into his system, and he had no idea he'd gotten it. And I found that when you drop off a check and they see it, it's not unusual that a week later they send you another case because they're thinking about it. So, I think it's that personal touch. Second thing is John always taught me to take every phone call. So I talk to people all the time. I'll talk to people about all sorts of weird stuff, about trees falling on people and, disputes about weird stuff. But what's crazy is like 5 years later, you'll get a call from someone that says, you were the only lawyer that talked to me. I called like 10 people that day and you spent the time and talked to me and you didn't make any money. That's why I'm back. And they'll be back with a real case or a good case. And then the third part is I try lots of cases. On average, I try somewhere between 5 and 7 cases a year. My biggest year was 17. I've tried cases all over the state. I've been in all but 5 counties in the state. And so I think that gets you a good reputation with the defense. They're understanding that you're willing to fight for your clients. And I think that gets you more money. And if you get more money, then people remember you. And you get more referrals that way. And we'll get adjusters that'll send us cases. We'll get all sorts of people that'll send us cases because they understand that we'll fight for our clients.
If I remember correctly, didn't you get like trial lawyer of the year?
I have been. I was president of the Minnesota Trial Lawyers, which now is Minnesota Association for Justice. And earlier than that, I got the Trial Lawyer of the Year, which is the award that they give out for the member that that has success, or you get that, and it's supposedly a big deal.
It is a big deal. They only give out one a year, right?
Yeah.
And the deal is, you're exactly right. I mean, there's some really big lessons that you just gave, and I don't even know if you realize it, but that delivering the check.
Yep.
I preach, it's called top of mind awareness. And people just, I just think that's ingenious. And we got some PLMA members that do that in my masterminds, and they make it a point to hand deliver the checks because, and to check see if there's anything else they can do for the people, the doctors or whatever. So I think that's very telling, top of mind awareness. It even gets you a referral because, like you say, you're on the top of their mind, right? And I think the other big deal was the fact that you actually talk to somebody and tell them the truth. I think what you're doing, whether you know it or not, you're becoming their trusted legal advisor. And that's what everybody, I've been preaching this for 20 years. I hear lawyers say, well, we ain't got time to talk to these people because it's not what we handle. But the deal, or it's not a good case. Well, if you talk to them, explain to them why it's not a good case. Like you said, I've had people tell me, I wish the last 5 lawyers had told me that. I just wanted to know. I wouldn't even be bothering you. And then when I do my newsletters, I put in there, we want to be if you got a legal problem, call us, because even if we don't do it, we can refer it out and build goodwill. Or maybe it's a MISO case or a big money case or a mass tort case that we don't handle. But my God, we could get a referral fee, right?
Yeah.
I think that's very smart. I could see how you grew because, that's the little things that really make a big, what is it? My mentor, Dan Kenny, said, small hinges can open real large doors sometimes.
Yeah, that's true.
And yeah. So, I want to talk about radio because I've talked to different lawyers across the country over the years, and some have had very good success with radio, and some have had terrible failures with radio. Can you tell us about what type of radio you do, what kind of shows, what kind of programs you're in, things like that?
Well, I spent a lot of time reading books about radio. I read a bunch of books by Jack Trout, and he created this system that was 3 days a week, 21 times total. And people get that. And the key is getting it over time. So when you get into radio, you're committing to a year, you're committing to a real impact so that it has a long-term effect. TV, you'll get calls right away because it's there and then it goes away because McDonald's wipes you off the map, or some big advertiser wipes you off. Radio, you want to work on getting it in their head. So you commit to a time period. We do it on that schedule, and people think they hear me every day, even though I'm only on that time schedule. And then it's working with the commercials. I write all my own commercials. A lot of them come from from blogs that I've done. But it's a building block, and there's 3 main parts to it. We added a jingle to it, and there's tons of people that can sing the jingle. We've got a wording that says, don't sign anything until you talk to a lawyer. And then over time, it became don't sign anything until you talk to us. Originally, I didn't kind of want to say that, but it's become that. And then it's my voice. I voice all the commercials. Every once in a while we'll have a testimonial, but for the most part, I do all the voicing. So it's the idea of having these bricks that people rely on. And things are working when people call you up and say, hey, I didn't want to sign anything until I talked to a lawyer. They repeat to you or they sing the jingle. They know those things because our business, we're marketing to so few people. I did the math one day. In Minnesota, there was 476 people that died on the roads one year. Okay. And of the 476, about half of those probably were at fault. They did something wrong. They were speeding, single car accidents. So there's 230 cases. And then 230 cases, about half of those, either the insurance company got to them right away and settled, or they had very little coverage, or they had no coverage. So you're competing for 100 cases when it comes down to it for wrongful death. And that year we got 10 wrongful death cases. And when you look at that percentage, that's huge when you figure out what goes into getting those cases. So, it's the realization that people don't need you all the time. You don't need lots of traffic to your website. These people that are thinking they need tons of traffic to your website, there's nothing on your website that gets you traffic every day. So you want to get the right number of people. So we get on average 47 hits a day. I get contacts from about 10 to 12 of them. And what happens is you get that thing in their head that when something happens, either they tell somebody or they themselves call you. And that's what radio does, is it cements it in their head.
So, that's the burning question I get asked all the time. So I'm going to ask you. So what do you do different to get 10% of the wrongful death cases in Minnesota? Because everybody wants the big cases, right?
Yeah, it's a combination of, it's primarily reputation and repetition. Those are the two things. You do a good job and people come to you. So we get some of the cases because they've heard things about us, or they've heard good things about us. And two, it's that ongoing thing. I blogged 4 years every single day. That's had an impact on getting us on the internet. The constant radio, that's had an impact. The jingles had an impact. It's regular repetition and doing a good job. That's the big thing that gets you cases.
So what is your jingle? Can you sing your jingle?
What's that?
Can you sing your jingle?
No, I would never sing it, but it's basically Bradshaw Bryant. It's a jingle. If you Google Bradshaw Bryant jingle, it's out there on the internet.
Okay. All right. I will see. Yeah, that's not. Yeah, I can understand that. So, are you still doing billboards to support the radio? Still?
We don't do as much billboards because I don't know. Yeah, well, a couple things have happened in the cities. Billboards have become like not as bad as Florida, but there's a lot more people doing billboards, where at one point John was the only one doing billboards. So it's gotten overplayed. And then overall, I don't know that billboards are as effective, particularly in Minnesota, and it might have been people weren't driving. It's like we got enough for what we did. I've gone away from newspapers. I've gone away from phone books. I've gone away from billboards. I think we still got 5 left. One is on one of the major highways in Minnesota. But overall, it's been primarily radio and the stuff we do on the internet.
Because you trial lawyer of the year and getting these big cases and getting big verdicts, do you get referrals from other lawyers on bigger cases sometimes?
Yep. That's part of giving your name out. That's part of bringing the check so that they know those things as far as that effect goes. The other thing that I would add is I finally added a lawyer her full-time job is to call people back right away. Because there's times I'm in trial or I'm busy. I want to get back to people. Like I call them back at night. I call them back on weekends. But sometimes it's impossible. And so you get 2 or 3 days. And there's a group of people out there that if you don't call right away, you lose them. So Jody's only job is to call people back all the time and make sure that they hear, right away from us. There's a group of people that want me or want our firm. So they'll sit there and wait. Sometimes they're a little angry if it's been too long, but they'll wait for you. But there's a whole group that want you, but if you don't get to them right away. So I added a person whose only job was to follow up on those things.
That's probably money well spent. It's probably made you money.
Absolutely. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah. So what do you foresee in the future for your law firm? I mean, what do you think is the next big deal?
We do a lot of car accidents. So there's always, at some point, we may see that, electronic cars or self-driving cars might wreck the business or stop that, which, it's one of the big things about doing personal injuries. We're allowed to do this so that we protect people and make things better. We don't have Pintos on the road. So if it's someday we don't have car accidents, man, that's a great job that we did. That it'll create that. Who knows what the next item will be? I didn't know, and I about 8 years ago started doing a lot of priest cases, survivor cases of kids that were sexually abused because they opened the window in Minnesota. That's been an incredible experience. You've got people that are incredibly hurt and have major psychological issues, and watching them grow or watching them finally get some justice is a big deal when we open the window in Minnesota. So there's always opportunities like that. Keep looking, and I keep going to trial, or hopefully get back to trial. COVID's kind of put a hinge on that for us here, but I keep going to trial and keep fighting for people, and that makes a difference.
Have you noticed any change in how the insurance companies are dealing or willing to pay because they know you can't get in the courtroom? Are you seeing them, or not really?
It depends. There's companies that were already set up with people working from home even before COVID, and they don't seem to have changed much. The one thing that we've always got is we have a whole history of trying cases, and they know we're not going to go away. So I think that helps. I would hate to be a firm right now that's sitting there that hasn't tried cases, because I don't know how they force anybody to give them $1. The one thing that I see coming is, because we've got such a big backup in Minnesota. I mean, I haven't tried a case in 2 years. And that's a big deal because I love trying cases and I try to get in there. But at some point, we're going to start trying a bunch of cases if things come back the way they are. So there's a lot of expense. There's a lot of work that goes into that. One of my lawyers was supposed to try a case in September. It got bumped till next April. We're carrying the 2 experts until next April. So there's a lot of costs going on there. And so that's going to be a scary time to get through. But that's one of the things we keep in mind, and hopefully we'll get there and do the job we keep doing for clients.
What would you say is the best advice you ever received as far as growing your law firm?
Oh, to listen. I think that sometimes, we have a tendency to talk more than we listen. And if you listen to clients, it's amazing how many of them will tell you things. That's probably the best advice I got. The second thing is to fight for people. It's amazing. You can fight for somebody and lose. One of the best referring clients I ever had, or I continue to have, is a client we lost a trial for. 5 lawyers turned down his case. We went to trial. We came so close. It was a 60-40 verdict, and we lost. We were on the 40 side. And in Minnesota, if you don't get 51, you lose. He's been one of the best referring people I've ever had because he knew we fought for him. And, that's a big part of what we do is fight for people. And we give voice to people that just normally don't have people on their side.
You're definitely a true trial lawyer. I can tell that. You love what you do. It's refreshing is all I can tell you. It is a business, but we got in this business for different reasons. And, when I first got in it, I wanted to make a lot of money, but I started making a little bit of money. Money wasn't a big deal anymore. It was really trying to right wrongs and trying to, watching how these insurance companies and the banks and different things screw people over, and lie to them. And, when you can turn that around, I don't know, it's just a good feeling. I think it's just a great feeling. It's a purpose. I guess everybody's got to have a purpose in life, right? And it can change, I guess, but that's a good purpose, I think. So I applaud you. We're getting near the end. What kind of advice would you give to lawyers out there that are wanting to get into PI or just getting started, as far as if you were talking to your son or whatever, they were getting ready to start a PI practice, what would you tell them?
For someone starting a PI practice, I'd make sure they understand how much money you have to put into it. You can get tons of people coming through the door, but all it means is you're spending lots of money. Very rarely do they come in with money taped to their head. It's not an hourly business. So, we'll spend a lot of money on radio right now, but we don't see that money really coming 4, 5, 6 years down the road. So it's understanding that you need the money. We had a trial years ago where the question was a skid mark, and it was during a skid mark on the road. And it was during the winter. They have a road plowed. We had to get the road shut down by the police, and we had to get some crazy guy to get on a motorcycle at 85 miles an hour and lay down a skid mark. That was expensive. And it was the week before trial we did that. And you've got to have the money to do that. so that you do those things, because there's some places that wouldn't have been able to afford it, and they chose not, they wouldn't do it, and then the jury would never see that. And what happened in that case was we were able to show the officer what that skid mark looked like, and he was like, oh no, that's not what I saw when I went out to the scene. And it made a big difference in that case. So if you're going to start a firm, you got to realize all the things that come involved with it before you get to the point where you're actually making money. I mean, you're losing money right off the bat. The advice I would give people who are in the practice is January 1st or January 2nd or 3rd, whatever day you do it, walk in and get rid of or finish up 5% of your cases. Get rid of the ones you haven't gotten to, get rid of the ones that are there. And it doesn't matter if you ever make money, maybe the client gets the whole check. But if you get rid of that 5% of cases, your staff loves you, because they're like, well, you just got rid of that whole bunch of cases. Two, it gets that burden off you so you can work on things that, it'll be different and will make you money. So that'd be the advice I'd give people that have been doing this a long time.
Great advice. All right. Is there anything I haven't touched on that you would like to talk about or tell us?
This is a great opportunity that allows us to go beyond the bar. There's a difference that what makes you a lawyer versus anybody else. People aren't allowed to do it. And it's understanding that. And even though jurors do wrong things sometimes, but they try hard, they work hard. They may be, goofy in what they do, but they really try hard. And it's protecting the system and understanding this is the best system in the world that makes us what we are as Americans, so it makes us our Constitution for what it is. And I think as trial lawyers, it's our duty to make sure that this system, no matter what it is, no matter what trial it is always protected, so that we have a right to go to court and fight, the way we do.
I concur. Great words of wisdom. So if anything you want to share, if somebody wants to get up with you or refer you a big multi-million-dollar case or whatever.
Well, if you ever got a question, and I don't care whether it's multi-millionaire or not, that I like talking to people, and I might as well talk to people I like. Our website is minnesotapersonalinjury.com. Our phone number is 800-770-7008. Phones are answered 24 hours. We have a service that answers our phones, because one time a lawyer told me, you're missing a lot of cases by people who call me later on a Friday night because you've got an answering machine and I'm answering the phone. And suddenly I had an answering service on that next week. And so we get lots of calls. I call people back. It makes a difference. So yeah, I'd be happy to talk to anybody. And even if you got a question about Minnesota, I'm always happy to help if I can.
Michael, thank you so much for taking time. We really appreciate it. And until next time, this is Ken Hardison, dedicated to your success. Thanks.
You have been listening to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, the podcast that leads lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Go to growyourlawfirm.com to find more ways to market and manage your law firm. Please leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts.